First, can I commend the London Fire Brigade for the commencement and the start of this fantastic project. I'm sure it's just a coincidence it started after I left, but we'll see later. Why the Institution of Fire Engineers involvement? Let's start with that first. It starts back about 6 months ago, actually, when the institution was sharing some time with the National Operational Guidance Group, and we discussed the fact that the institution has a role to play in the development of the fire and rescue service, not least of which with the examinations. There's 7,000 papers sat every year by IFE members, and that the IFE examinations should fully reflect what's going on inside the National Operational Guidance. I can say from this year that a paper that's just been completed by the institution on hazardous materials will now be fully linked across to the National Operational Guidance, and further operational papers on our examinations will follow. So there's already an immediate link between the institution's aims and the work of the National Operational Guidance, and hopefully that drive with our examinations will build on the knowledge base through the NOG process. The other thing was that the institution, working through CFOA, the CFOA Health and Safety and CFOA Ops, we're looking at the provision of a firefighter safety database. Basically, this will be a database that will collate firefighter accidents, particularly very serious or fatal firefighter accidents, and be available for all through the IFE website. We are looking at the end of this to make sure that firefighter safety database is fully coherent with the work of the website of UKFRS. So Nick and the team, and Susan and the team approached me and said, would I be the project executive or the chair of the National Operational Learning? And I must admit, I'm very pleased and proud to be able to assist. For those of you that hold the purse strings, I can tell you the first thing that comes to mind is the level of professionalism and focus on delivery and project-based approach to this particular subset of the whole programme. It is extremely well driven. It's with full project implementation, and Susan Ellison Bunce must take the applause for that, because, as I say, it's quite daunting as a project executive, quite the rigour that's being placed on the delivery and the focus on delivery of this particular project. So the IFE, a charity, we have 10,000 members, we have 40 odd branches, 20 in this country, and 20 or so ranging from Iceland to Australia, and more about the international implications in a short while. So, to the solution. We've got nowhere near the solution, by the way. We're working on the issues. So, but this is, if you want, the elevator pitch that I asked the project manager to come up with. That can you all see that? I won't take the opportunity to read all of it. But the key purpose is to provide a best practice framework for operational learning across the fire and rescue sector. That's not just fire and rescue services, and I'll explain in a while why. The project team is multidisciplined. It has people from fire and rescue, from CFOA, it has health and safety professionals in it, it has people from other high hazard industries, clearly has the people from NOG on it, and it has people from the rest of the UK fire and rescue sector. It builds on the work that's already been done by Roy and his colleagues in terms of the work that you've already heard about on Jessup, and also the work that CFOA have been doing on recognising the need for operational learning. So we are not reinventing the wheel, we're looking to build on that process, and particularly the work that Martin Blunden's been doing. As I said before, the impetus is with the NOG structure, and there is a very, very clear focus on delivery for late summer of next year for the project. A daunting focus, I have to say. So, the outcomes. We want the rationale why NOG is running this is because they're running it because they need to identify, as Des said earlier, the operational learning that is coming from the fireground and bring it forward to update the policy over the next foreseeable future. And it needs to be a collaborative learning approach with the whole sector, not just the fire and rescue services. And we need to be able to share good practice. project team have been meeting now on a regular basis for the last couple of months. We are now starting into the detail of the work, but I'm just going to share with you a little bit of a busy side, but I hope it works. Okay, so what we try to do is break the problem, if you could call it a problem, is how you would take information and data that would be needed for people to make clear decisions on changes to operational procedures and policy, and bring it through a process by which it can be filtered. So we've broken it up, in essence, into three key pieces. So on the left, you see the UK Fire and Rescue Service, and on the right, you see the UK Fire and Rescue sector. Right? So we recognise there's information that the UK Fire and Rescue Service collate on a regular basis, or if they don't need to collate on a regular basis, about operational activities, near misses, policy processes that aren't working, new processes or industries, new infrastructure, whatever it's going to be, that becomes a learning event for the UK Fire and Rescue sector. And we see that pushing through a series of filters, and the filters being, do we really need to tell anyone else about this, or is it just a local issue, or is this really important for the whole UK Fire and Rescue Service? To, I've called it for the minute, the machine down at the bottom, which will make decisions about the import and implications of that information, and then transfer it via the appropriate route back to the UK Fire and Rescue sector. So we can't see any reason why we have to pull the teeth out of that one. We can see that being pushed down to the machine. I'll cut to the machine, which we presume will be something around the CFOA governance arrangements. Roy's quite clear, as well as other CFOA colleagues, let's not reinvent the wheel. If we have appropriate governance arrangements in CFOA, let's use them, rather than redesign things. And you can see that those implications might cover a range of issues, from policy and procedure, training, development, equipment, or it might cover several different things. If it's been an accident on serious accident on the fire ground, or a failure to perform, what are the implications through the machine and back to the UK Fire and Rescue Service on a global scale? The other side is the UK Fire and Rescue sector. What's coming out in research? What's coming out from BRE? What's coming out from coroner's reports? What's coming out from other data and information sources? And we are working to try and identify what those sorts of information and data that we could get. Now, we see that as a pull issue, because they will need us to approach them and say, we need your data, we need your information, please can you send it to us? So I hope that just breaks it up into three easy chunks for everybody. So in the process of trying to make this a simple project, we've then broke that up into 5 work packages. Right, so the first one is the fire and rescue sector, as we said. We want the Fire and Rescue Service work package team, to look at what would be good practice organisational learning for the UK Fire and Rescue Service, both at an individual, organisational, and as a coherent UK Fire and Rescue Service solution. Yeah? So that's number one. They need to find out what information the UK Fire and Rescue Service has and how it can be fed up through that filter to CFOA or the CFOA machine, so that it can be decided on how that needs to be sent back out to the UK Fire and Rescue Service. And what criteria we should apply to in that filter for the sorts of information that should come up. Yeah? So that we don't end up swamping the process with information that's not required. We then look at fire and sector learning, and it's a very similar process. There's a work team working on that, and they're looking at define the nature of the information and data and learning that can come from sources other than UK Fire and Rescue Services. Quite straightforward. What data is being produced elsewhere that could impact on UK Fire and Rescue Services decision making, and as importantly the policy structures and the policy and procedures that are coming out of NOG. And determine again the filters and the method by pulling that information down in a usable format that can be used by the CFOA machine to inform colleagues in the UK Fire and Rescue sector. We then had the third work stream, and basically the third work stream is Roy's machine. This is the machine through CFOA, the design of the machine by which that information can be brought down, collated, and sent out in an intelligible way so that UK Fire and Rescue Services can make decisions, but as importantly goes through into national operational guidance, and national operational guidance can then affect the way that operational guidance is written or produced and sent out. So I'm hoping that gives you some idea that the issues that Des has put forward, which is, how do we reinvigorate, how do we enliven, how do we refresh national operational guidance over the next decade. There's going to be a process and a procedure by which that can be delivered. And as importantly, Des, you was talking about firefight fatalities. We currently have a firefighter safety database being constructed, which will link directly to the UK Fire and Rescue website, which is being cleared through CFOA Ops and Health and Safety. The last two work streams, and I'll conclude just after that, the last two work streams are technological solution. What do we need to do in terms of software for data collation and data transmission? Are there ways we can make this simpler by the appropriate use of software for UK Fire and Rescue Services to send information down, as just as importantly, send information back? And then culture and engagement, the issues are, how do we make sure the longevity of this project, how do we make sure that people engage with the process of sending information in for decision making, and as importantly, engage with the process when the information comes back to them. So I hope that is a quick whiz round the process. The journey has only just started. We've probably met half a dozen times, the project board, but there are teams up and running and they are working on some of those core issues inside the work packages. I've said that we use the extent structures wherever possible. Now, the last thing was, Catherine asked me just to have a little look about 2018. Where do I see us in 2018? Organisational learning is up and running. There's a best policy, practice and guidance where people know what information should be collated and sent down. There's a machine to consider that information and send it back. IFE examinations are fully reflective of the national operational guidance, and that people taking the examinations, and I say over 7,000 sat them this year in countries across the world, including the UK, will reflect the national operational guidance. Other countries in 2018 will already be looking on in interest. Indeed, I've had an email from the other side of the world already about what the IFE is doing with NOG, and I think other countries are looking forward to seeing the work that you're carrying out. And not last and not least, the firefighter safety database will be fully populated and be capable of being searched by people who need to review and research into the nature and causes of those accidents.